What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Martian and Ozzy podcast. This week, we are back to discuss the big UFC 295 pay per view going down this Saturday night from Madison Square Garden, New York City. Two big title fights going on, both for vacant titles right now. We got the interim heavyweight championship between Pavlovich and Aspinall in the co-main event, and the vacant light heavyweight championship between Jiri Prochazka and Alex Pereira. Really good card, top to bottom. Excited for this one in New York City. But who won't be in New York City this week is my man Ozzy. Joining me as always. How we doing this week, my man?
Doing great. Got my bags packed. I will not be there. Usually I try to make it to the MSG cards. I think the last one I didn't make it to, but got a bachelor party in Puerto Rico. A huge bachelor party. It's like, I think there might be like 21 people going to this thing, maybe 19, something like that. I don't know. But I touch down tomorrow. I scope out the land. But yeah, we're gonna get this podcast out early, hoping that everybody that is coming into the city enjoys the event. And I like how they kind of set up the card overall. So a lot of action fights, sprinkled all around. Interesting bout orders, honestly. Like they have Costa and Erceg as like the featured prelim. So that's interesting, I guess. And yeah, but let's get this paper. What was the last pay-per-view? Was the Islam that Abu Dhabi card. That card
That
ended up sucking.
atrocity. Yeah.
Yeah, that card ended up sucking. I hope that this one picks up the slack. And we're coming off a solid week, so let's keep that rolling.
Yeah, I've got high hopes for this one. I just think top to bottom, even like the first few fights in the prelims, I honestly think like pretty much every fight is good, even though there are a few that were thrown together on last moment notice. They're still not bad. So I'm excited for this one. We're going to be starting things from the top in this second. Just last week was a successful one for me, up 1.9 units on the Bet MMA points website. Couple good sides came through for us there, but prop side of things didn't do so well. I was expecting a lot of subs. The Brazilian event, I was thinking, oh, Bohaio, Nascimento, Vieira. I was just thinking all these guys are going to submit. I don't think there was a single submission on the entire card. So
Mm.
how about you? How'd it go?
Yeah, good event for me overall. I think I finished up 2.5 units. Unfortunately, we lost that Hidalgo bet, which was I think one that we were both extremely confident in. I was just under 3 units in on Hidalgo, but Angie Hill came through for us. Mark Diakese. I think some of that over that I mentioned with Zaleski being able to hopefully fend off he not, and he really made that fight extremely interesting, got that draw to end it, but we were on the goes the distance there. But yeah, it was a solid event overall. I wish we would have been able to see that Hidalgo fight play out overall, but I'm not sure any regrets there. I think maybe just not taking like starts round two or they're over in the main event, because it's just like maybe like an interesting way to attack it. Like you could have had maybe Lewis, KO, and then that over. But Dolby coming through as a big underdog. I think he was one of only two underdogs, him and Angie Hill, that were able to win. So let's see if that comes to fruition here as well, because I think we'll be on a lot of the favorites this week as well.
Yeah, Dolby was sick. Great comeback from him there. And Petrino, legit. Angie Hill, good win. Dave Casey getting the thing done. Renat clinging on for dear life. I felt pretty lucky to especially
That
with
was
the
a good
goes at
fight.
this like
That was
he was 90% knocked out. That was good 10-8 round there. But enough about that last week. So we're going from the first fight down. So we're starting things off in the main event. 11-11 this card is too, by the way. So if you're into angel numbers, that could be a very good thing for the universe this week. But we got Jiri Prochazka taking on Alex Pereira. Jiri was the champion. He vacated it.
Hold on.
Uh,
You need a pick if you're gonna call him Yuri, Jury, and if you're gonna call him Prohashka or whatever the hell you pronounce his last name before that.
Yuri.
Figure it
Yuri
out.
Prochazka.
Thank you.
He had the belt. He vacated it. Jamal Hill won the belt. He vacated it. Blachowicz and Ankalaev fought. It was a draw, and now they're doing this one. So a lot of shit going on in light heavyweight division. Odds for this one have near pick'em Pereira -115, Yuri -105. getting two-way action here. If anybody likes Jiri, he's still plus 110 on FanDuel, so it seems like now's the time to get that because it's looking like it's trending towards pick'em. And this is just going to be a shootout. I highly doubt they're going to see any grappling here. I think these guys are just going to absolutely light each other up, and there's a good chance somebody gets knocked out in the first two rounds. I got to go with Pereira just because I envision a striking fight, and I just think that obviously Pereira has the much better striking acumen, and he will be able to find the better shots here. Although rewatching the fight with Jan, I just think that he was a little like tentative there to really throw full power. It could have been because the fight just started with him immediately being taken down and controlled for an entire round. So that was definitely in the back of his mind the entire time. He got taken down in all three rounds of the fight, but still won. So I think his initiative there looked good. Once he got taken down, he got back up and started throwing strikes and won the rounds back. But totally different fight here. Jiri, I doubt attempts any takedowns. And I just think these guys are going to absolutely blitz each other. And I just never like Yuri's defense. The Reyes fight, he gets hit a lot. The Reyes fight, he gets countered. He's just, I think, a little too wide open for strikes here. And, he's not the most durable guy as well. We've seen him rocked a good amount of times. In the UFC, we've seen him rocked. Glover Teixeira had him on skates. So I just think I got to go with Alex Pereira to he's got to go for revenge. He's got to get revenge for his mentor, Glover Teixeira. I'm going to go with Alex knockout round 2 as the pick.
Very
And a bet.
nice. So perfect. So I've been going a little bit back and forth on this fight. Obviously, UFC title fight, 5-rounder, basically pick 'em odds for the most part. Jiri, I think, was plus 110 earlier in the week, and that's come down a little bit. And I decided that I'm gonna side with the Jiri Prochazka side. Now, looking at some of the variables or some of the history for both these guys, for Alex Pereira, it's gonna be his fourth fight in basically a calendar year, right? So we remember last year he won the middleweight belt here in MSG against Izzy, 5-round fight, pretty close fight overall, but he kind of had to pull that fight out. Then he had the knockout loss earlier in this year. He had that fight at altitude with Jan. I guess that was in August or July. I forget the exact date that was. I think it was end of July or end of who cares? Or yeah, it was the Dustin card. It was the Dustin Poirier card versus Gaethje, and now he's got this fight. So he's really running the gambit here. So usually I feel that sometimes these training camps do build up on guys, and if you ever see Martian, right? Do you ever see the footage of Alex training with Glover? What are they doing with each other? They're just punching each other in the forehead, dude. They're just punching each other in the forehead, going, blow for blow. I saw a video of him training with Hobocop, and him and Hobocop are just lighting each other up. They're just freaking exchanging, swinging, as like people are watching them. So I like that Yuri's had some time to recover from this shoulder injury, recover from that fight of the year that he had against Glover last year. And while I don't love some of his defense, I do feel that for Alex, I think it is going to be hard for him to find Jiri early on, because I didn't feel that he looked as quick as he used to, like when he was at middleweight against Jan. And that's against someone in Jan who is slow-footed, doesn't really move his like torso very much. He kind of just keeps his hands up. And I feel that he wasn't really uncorking his shots. He didn't have the kind of pressure, that he was backing up Izzy with, multiple times. So this is a tough pick for me to make, honestly. But I feel that the unorthodox nature of Yuri's strikes and the unpredictable nature of it is going to give him the opportunity to extend this fight a little bit longer. I do think this fight is more likely to go into the second or third round than people think. And I think that will be a benefit and advantage for Jiri. It's a volatile fight, though. One line that I do like, and I think is maybe a little bit off, is Jiri to actually win by knockout. I'm seeing that at plus 200 at a few books. And I feel like that's the all right spot, because Jan really, after that first round of grappling, he really didn't have much to offer Alex overall. He wasn't really able to counter. And, we still haven't seen Alex get hit by a light heavyweight. And the last time we saw him get countered, he went to sleep pretty quick against Izzy, right? So I feel that Yuri's power, pace, and ability to find the ways to win basically is being a little bit underrated here. We've seen him against Dominic Reyes, right? He ends up finding the kill shot there, ends up hurting him multiple times. Same thing against Glover, even though he was put in bad compromising positions. Often he was always able to be a threat in that fight. And then as well against Volkan, how he was able to find a knockout shot after Volkan was coming on strong early on. So I'm gonna go with Yuri Prochazka here to retire to get back his belt here. But it's gonna be a thrilling fight, I feel, and not one that I want to be really big on. But I do like him slightly at that plus money and a little shot at that KO line.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of stuff there. The fight favoring Yuri as it goes longer, I do think that. But yeah, compelling fight for you. You're historically a big on both these guys, so you're going to be let down
Yeah, I've
one way
done
or
well.
another.
I've done well on both these guys' fights for the most part.
And that's going to take us to the co-main event heavyweight division interim title. Was supposed to be John Jones versus Stipe headlining the card. Instead, they're putting this together as the interim title. Sergey Pavlovich taking on Tom Aspinall. Odds for this one have Aspinall slight favorite -123, Pavlovich +103. I think Pavlovich was slated to be the backup for this one, and so he had more time to prepare. Aspinall is the one coming in on shorter notice, so keep that in mind and give us your thoughts on this fight, Ozzy.
Awesome, fantastic, fascinating fight here. We got two guys here who awesome power in their hands. Big heavyweights as well. None of this, 230, BS. I think both these guys are gonna come in 260 plus. We got Pavlovich who has that crazy reach, right? That 84-inch reach, matching John Jones's, where he's kind of just a boxing machine, right? You saw him, he's shadow boxed, and you're like, holy crap, like, this guy might be the great white hope for heavyweight MMA. He might be the next Fedor, right? But just with boxing. And with him, he just got those lunch boxes for fists. He's not really the most technical, I feel, but he does throw his shots and his punches in good succession. I like some of his, punch selection, but the main thing is I've only really seen him do that in the first round, right? That's why I'm not as big of a fan about heavyweight MMA because I feel a lot of the times it's, you're kind of guessing, for the most part, you're hoping that the guy could do, what he's doing in the first round in, a later fight. And I feel that Tom Aspinall, if his cardio is not, shot and bad, and he's been hopefully training a little bit after that fight, which I guess his fight was in September against Tybora.
No,
I
was it?
wasn't in
No, it's
September.
July.
Yeah, it was in July. No, it was in the wasn't or it was
No,
it wasn't. Yeah, you're right.
September.
Sorry, I'm mixing it up with the France card. My bad. You're right. Um, so I'm hoping that he has maintained some fitness level, but he did look great. Coming off that ACL surgery or whatever it was that he tore in his knee, he looked honestly quicker than ever, bigger than ever. He had that crazy back tattoo. He looked awesome, and his hands look so quick. He gets off multiple strikes, coming at you from multiple angles, really really quickly. And he also has great jiu-jitsu. He does have some takedown entries. He will throw some leg kicks as well, mix it in there. So I like the movement of Tom Aspinall, but he really hasn't fought anybody that was committed and willing to punch with him, right? Where down the counter with counter him, and I haven't really seen his chin all too much. But I do have to favor him in this fight because I feel that he can extend this more than likely just with the footwork, with maybe keeping up a shell and some defense and taking some of Pavlovich's shots hopefully, and deterring them from kind of just fighting his chin, using that big cage where I feel like a few of the Pavlovich's opponents in the smaller cage, or in the bigger cage I should say, were kind of just in there to exchange with him, like Tuivasa and some of these other guys. This one is a fight though that I really don't really want to have a stake in, unless Tom goes to like plus money or so, or even. I don't really want to invest in it because I feel that laying a quarter juice, laying 20 cents here in a fight where it's so short notice, you have a guy who hasn't been out of the first round. Either of them really haven't been too deep in fights. It's just not a good investment. And there are better opportunities later down on the card, for me to get involved in. And yeah, that's just how I feel about the fight. But I think that these guys potentially will fight on more than one occasion because I do feel that their skills definitely do stand out against these other guys in the heavyweight division. But I'm hoping for an all-out brawl that we get to see. Hopefully a second round. Hopefully both these guys, maybe seeing some adversity in there. And yeah, but not the biggest or most extensive handicap, but I just feel that the tools that Tom has are capable of giving Pavlovich some difficulties. So it's all going to be all about execution. And with the short training camp, I just don't want to be too involved in the fight on the Aspinall side.
Yeah, I agree with a good amount of points on the matchup. The points about Aspinall's ground game, Aspinall's footwork, extending the fight. And that's why I'm going to be on Aspinall here to win a unit minus 118. Pavlovich definitely could, rock'em sock'em him in round one like he has done to all of his UFC opponents, except for the legend Alistair Overeem. However, one sec. So Sergey could definitely knock him out in the first round, but I'm just thinking if this fight gets extended, we see a longer fight. I think that Tom's chances are looking pretty good. And I just, kind of cap him 6 out of 10 here. I think he could definitely get melted. Maybe Pavlovich's cardio is better than we expect, and he's able to sustain that power in his boxing in the later rounds. But I really don't expect this one to get out of like the second or third round at the very latest. And I just think that Aspinall maybe being fleet of foot, avoiding the exchanges, avoiding just that pocket where Pavlovich shines. How can Pavlovich fight when he doesn't have a guy just like willing to box? Like, how is it going to look if Aspinall is jabbing and leg kicking and moving and darting in and out? I think that could give Pavlovich a lot of troubles. And we've seen Pavlovich look bad on bottom. Especially the Overeem fight. So if Aspinall can time a takedown at any point, I think that could look real good. And Aspinall, I really think even though Pavlovich has had some decent wins, right? He melted Ty and Derek, and he got Curtis out of there in his most recent impressive win. But Tom Aspinall's win over Alexander Volkov remains the most impressive thing I've seen from either one of these guys, especially with Volkov looking good lately. I mean, he's on a 3-fight win streak since that fight, finishing Rosenstrike, Romanov, Tuivasa, and Aspinall just took him down and made him look completely easy in that fight. So I think that win is aging really well. And even though short notice, I got Tom Aspinall here. First time betting on Tom, I think, in my career. So that's going to move us on to the women's strawweight division. Jessica Andrade, Mackenzie Dern here. Dern's the favorite at minus 185. Andrade plus 160. I hate Mackenzie Dern fights. I think they're really difficult to cap. And the same is sort of said about Andrade, I think Andrade has been looking absolutely tragic lately. Just looking like she's not even trying in some of her fights. She took the Blanchfield fight on really short notice and quit really easily there. Got blasted versus Yan Shannan. Didn't really put up much of a valiant effort versus Suarez. And I don't know, man. I just think the Dern is gonna do her normal thing where she looks bad, she's getting outstruck, and then she ends up on top, and then she wins the round that way. And I just don't trust Andrade versus any form of a grappler. I know Dern's, striking sucks or wrestling sucks, but I mean, I just don't trust Andrade at this point. It doesn't seem like she's really, trying her best to win these fights. And I can't say the same about Mackenzie. Mackenzie, even though I talk shit on her skill set, the woman's grit and will to win and cardio is typically pretty good. And I think that should be enough to get her the win here. But no interest in any bets from this fight for me.
Yeah, so we have shout out Minabe, who our girl, quote unquote, who let me know after I was asking about Angie Hill, the stats on like who's won the most fights, whatever. She told me that Andrade has the most wins, fights, everything of any woman ever, any division. So, like you just said, she's run the gauntlet. She fought Aaron, she fought Jan, she fought Suarez, whoever the fuck she fought. She fought Lauren Murphy, Queen Lauren, and now she's fighting Mackenzie here. And I mean, I feel that um uh Aaron Blanchfield fight and the Tatiana Suarez fight may be clouding some people's judgment in like what you're saying right now about she's not trying this and this and that because she looked like a blood-seeking killer against Lauren Murphy. And it was very impressive to me because she was clobbering her with every kind of strike imaginable. Whatever strike she wanted to hit her with, she hit her with. And we got this all Brazilian affair, although some people don't say that Mackenzie Dern isn't Brazilian or she is Brazilian. You never know. People, these people, like I said, these guys that don't speak any other second language, talking about accents has to be the worst thing on the internet.
No, no, no. They
The
they
worst
they
thing
earn
ever.
their right. They earn their right to their opinion.
The worst thing ever. People that never don't know how to say one word in any other language, telling people how their accent should change or not change. Anyway, so in this fight though, I mean, Mackenzie, how is she gonna take any of these power shots from Jessica Andrade like comfortably? I don't know. I really don't want to be laying juice on that, let me tell you. And I've been one to, bet a Mackenzie Dern submission prop, once or twice and be really fuming and kind of like, begging. I'm like, Mackenzie, please just choke her. Please just go for the arm, whatever it is. I think I won big one time against Nina. But other than that, I feel that it is sometimes hard for her to control some of these girls at this 115 division, and especially a girl like Andrade, who she is explosive, she knows jujitsu. The fact that she got controlled by Aaron and Tatiana isn't really an indictment against her. Those girls are bigger, right? Tatiana usually fights at that one, or has said she's fight at the 125 weight cut, but she's just big and fucking strong. And Mackenzie Dern, she's more finesse. She's looking to cut through your guard. She's looking to kind of spin around you. Work her way around around her opponents. And sometimes that shit just don't work in MMA. If I'm being quite honest with you. So I'm definitely not interested in laying the juice, and it will only be Andrade or pass for me. But likely I'll pass a little bit. Hopefully we can see a little bit of a live price here. Mackenzie doing some of the flopping around and stuff like that. And then I'll get in live on Jessica, and then Mackenzie will probably like knee bar her or some shit. So that's probably what's gonna happen. But I'm not interested in laying juice on it. What's her submission line? Her submission price
165,
is
dog shit.
plus. Yeah, so I don't really want to be involved in that. So it's Andrade or pass for me. And if this goes to, I mean, if Mark Zuckerberg drops the hammer on Mackenzie, I'm gonna have to get involved on the Jessica Andrade side. So, but nice little featured fight here. Showcasing the women here. Also, shout out Mark Zuckerberg, tore his ACL training jujitsu. So
Mm.
a speedy recovery. He probably got a lot of fetuses and stem cells on deck, so he probably will be fine. But shout out,
Adrenochrome.
Mark.
I think the fight going the distance plus 160 seems a little off, just because Dern fights have like this mythical way of stretching the distance. She's had, I mean, most of them are 5 rounders, but she's had a lot of fights where you're thinking like, oh, this is going to be over, and somehow it just keeps on going, and it somehow makes it.
Man,
But
Jessica knows scorecards is plus 250.
mm, that's not
Seems
bad.
good. Seems good.
That's a good
Seems good to
angle.
me.
Um,
Yeah.
but like you said, I do like Dern getting some sloppy, stupid submission is very in play because Andrade was doing better in the Suarez fight. Like she was working her way into the fight. I remember the live odds were dropping big time, and then sticks her neck out and gets caught and taps.
I honestly thought I was like, ooh, maybe like I was just waiting for Tatiana to get tired. And I thought it was on the way to potentially happening. But then she got tapped there. But Mackenzie doesn't really have submissions like that. She's like a leg lock person, or she like needs to like control you. Like I've never seen her do like a guillotine or any submission like that.
No, yeah,
Ever. Not even in her jujitsu, not even in her like ADCC matches, none of that. So
yeah, she doesn't go for like many chokes. It's a lot of arms and knees, and um, but
I mean, she couldn't submit your girl. Like, I
yeah,
don't know.
that's
I feel
bad.
like Jessica might. I think Jessica might be a good dog shot this week.
Um, I'm just looking at the card now. It's the top 2 fights are big boy fights. Every other fight is below welterweight. It's all lightweight and below for the entire rest of the card. That's good to see. But an absolute banger of a fight next, a veterans matchup. Matt Frevola, Benoit Saint Denis. Odds for this one have Saint Denis minus 225, Frevola plus 190. What an amazing matchup here. Good job by the UFC. Um, Benoit coming off of that incredible win over Moises in Paris. Frevola coming off an incredible win over Dover in Jersey. Just all the stars aligning here. Your turn to start this one off.
Love this fight. This is one that I was expecting. I was like, okay, Benoit established himself against a guy like, a guy with a lot of fights like Moises. Now let's get him against someone who has fought a lot of tough guys, but is not really a prospect. But he's maybe like more of a gatekeeper kind of guy, but a solid guy still. Not too old, not over the hill, and on a little bit of a win streak, right? Now, if you look at Frivola's fights, a lot of them, obviously he's gotten clipped a few times in his losses, but he's fought valiantly in all the other fights, right? He's been very competitive, even against Armin. But all his fights are typically quite competitive overall. Benoit though is he's a tank. He's a very very big lightweight. Bullies his way into that clinch, into that back clinch specifically, and kind of just is relentless with continuing to go with that. But in my opinion, he's not like the most nuanced striker, right? He's a southpaw, right? He's looking to throw that left kick, but his defense is just straight up bad. Like he got clubbed a few times against Moises, right? They were kind of getting into a swinging match a little bit at like the end of the first round, and even though Moises is not really what I would call like a fighter's fighter, he was kind of like standing in that pocket, clipped him a few times. Moises even double legged him at one point, but he like I guess maybe he surprised himself because he really didn't follow up on it too much. But Frevola is, as you astutely pointed out to me, before a very good or high school wrestler, right, from Long Island. Obviously he's been training with the Cerro Longo camp for a long time. Makes his paychecks with his fists, but no noob on the ground. Fought Armin on short notice right after the potato incident. Right, I think that was him, the potato incident, and was moving around with him, pretty well there. One line that I feel that is, very very strange is we have the difference between Benoit by KO plus 145 and Benoit by submission plus 400. Now I'm looking at that and that just feels very odd to me because if they're on the feet, like yeah, I guess I could see Benoit knocking him out because Frivola's been clipped a few times. His chin sometimes it's not great early on, but Benoit, I just really don't think this guy's got very like he's very pinpoint striker overall on the feet. And I feel if he's swinging with Matt Frevola, who's fought multiple southpaws, in his career, who has actually good head movement, who times his counters, very, very well, I don't think it's gonna go for him. So this is the second consecutive dog shot that I feel is pretty reasonable because yeah, I do think that Benoit is gonna be very hard to take out. But I feel that he's just gonna potentially, New York City crowd, right? He doesn't have these French fries, all behind them singing whatever freaking song that they got that they parrot with each other. He don't got none of that. He's coming into hostile territory. Frivola's last two fights were, here and across the pond, right? In Jersey. And I just feel that Benoit's gonna get into a swinging match with him potentially if Frevola could dig any underhooks at all, to keep himself off the clinch and away from grappling situations. And I just don't think that he's gonna easily break a man with the will to win like Matt Frevola. So this is another dog shot that I'm liking. I wanted a little bit more of a plus in the plus 200 range, but at plus 190, I'm shipping it as well because I just feel that Benoit is he could get fraud checked here a little bit in terms of how he approaches the fight, and we'll see. And I'm looking at a little bit of a Frevola round 3. I kind of like, so I'm gonna look for the best price that I could get on that. Hopefully more than 20 to 1, and roll with that and the money line. So let's go, Matt. Steamroller, Frevola.
Yeah, I think a lot of good points brought up there as well. I'm aligning with your line of thinking a lot today, and I'm sure it's going to continue. But First of all, that Saint Denis fight and the Moises fight, the French crowds, dude, are pretty fucking crazy. Like,
It
I
was
mean,
good. No, it was good. I'm
it
just
was
saying
incredible.
he's not gonna be able to feed off that
Oh, for
energy.
sure. Yeah, no,
You definitely get a boost from that. You for sure
undoubtedly.
do.
And Frevola, I mean, I remember I was at his last fight, and people like before the fight, like they were like in the bar before the fight, the event started, going into the event, everyone is doing steamroller chants. Like he had fucking 200 people squad deep in that bitch at least. Um, And I didn't expect that shit to happen at all. With him knocking out Drew Dober in a striking fight, I don't think many expected that, but I certainly did not expect that. And I think Frevola has a lot of good tools that you would want against a guy like Saint Denis. I mean, Saint Denis has looked like a juggernaut in his recent fights, but if you're looking to fade him against an opponent, you would want them to be a good wrestler, not be able to get easily taken down, like Moises just easily flopping to his back, and some guys like Miranda and Bonfim, like, he was just getting easy takedowns there, and then if they stand and trade on the feet, Frevola has firepower, man. I mean, we just saw him crack the once impenetrable chin of Drew Dober and put him out there, and I just think Frevola kind of thrives in that kind of dogfight. I am a little worried about his chin. I do think that Saint Denis is the more durable of the two. We've seen Frevola cracked and knocked out several times before, so that does concern me. But I just don't see him Benoit getting those easy takedowns. So if he's not able to get that easy top time like he was against Moises, it's going to be striking. It's going to be volatile exchanges where Benoit is throwing a lot of volume, but he's leaving his chin way out there. Like you said, I mean, he has virtually no defense. And Moises hit him with a lot of good shots. And I just think that Frevola is going to be able to bite down on the mouthpiece and to land a big punch here of his own and possibly hurt Saint Denis at some point. People will say, "Oh, Saint Denis is so tough." The Zaleski fight, okay, that was at 170. That was like a week's notice, and I mean that fight. It was universally agreed that that was like one of the worst non-stoppages ever. Like just because he stayed alive in that fight doesn't mean he's durable. I mean, he was getting killed out there, so I don't think that it's like a given that the Denis chin is impenetrable. Like Drew Dober's once was, but that was not a problem for the steamroller. If he's fighting in a tri-state area, Jersey, New York, I think this guy really has some special powers. So I definitely think it's Frevola or pass. Have not made the wager myself. I'm all favorites this week, except I think Frevola is probably the most enticing dog for me. And also this fight just going long. I could see these guys just matching up evenly and having a dogfight, maybe both getting some top position time. I definitely think Frevola has the better chance at landing offensive takedowns here, which might surprise some people. So I think the fight going the distance at 3-1, and both their decision lines are intriguing. But I would just take GTD because if it's going to go the distance, it's going to be competitive. So what do you think about
Worth worth noting that Saint Denis never won a decision.
that? Mm,
He's only been to the decision against Zaleski. He's been into a third round, but he's gotten a third round finish. Like his second, what was it? His second MMA fight. He got a third round finish, but other than that, that's the only other time he's been in the third round.
that is a good note. We're moving on to the
And
last fight of the main card.
you know that Matt Frevola is going to be in shape, dude. He's always, he's not a guy that slows down.
No, he trains incredibly hard. Um, we're moving on to the last fight on the main card, featherweight division. Project Pat Sabatini taking on Diego Lopes. Odds for this one have Sabatini minus 121, Lopes plus 101. Everybody loves Diego Lopes. Not me personally, but everybody else seems to love him. I guess it's my turn to start this one off. So,
I'm pretty
Lopes,
surprised that this is the main card opener. I did not know that.
I think they're respecting Lopes. I mean, he did put on an entertaining fight versus Evloev in his first fight, and then he obviously had the finish. What was that? A triangle? Yeah, versus
It was a yeah,
that
yeah.
bum.
He was big. He had him in a triangle, then he threatened the armbar, and then basically he pulled him into the triangle deeper,
Mm,
threatening that armbar.
yeah. I mean, you know what you're getting from Lopes, right? I mean, the guy's striking is rather basic, but he throws out volume, and then he always gets taken down. He's always flopping to his back, but he's also dangerous off his back. So I just think this is a very clear fight where if I think Lopez can submit him in the first round, and if not, I think Pat is going to have him figured out. He's going to get consistent top position time. He's going to grind out these takedowns, and he's going to wear Lopes down, similar to how Mosfar Evloev did. Uh, and I think Pat is really on that same level as a grappler. I think his control and his locking down positions might even be better than Evloev. His pure wrestling might not be as good, but I think his control once he gets you down is possibly better than most Evloev. So I see Pat just getting takedowns here, grinding out the win. Obviously, a small chance he gets submitted. You got to be concerned about that one fight against James Gonzalez. He got like omoplata and his arm broken. But outside of that, I think this should be a Pat wrestling clinic from the American here. What are you thinking?
Yeah, it's a very interesting fight here. Like I said, about order, I didn't know. I thought this was actually a prelim fight, but I guess they have it on the main card. You know, there's been I think three or four fights of Lopes that he's fought guys who know how to wrestle and know jujitsu. Okay, so Marzar Evloev, the Brito fight, and this fight that he had in like ECB against some Russian. And in all three of those fights, he kind of just got put through the grinder. You know, he was doing his normal thing. And look, I like Diego Lopez's style. I've been known to like the armbar that he gets on these guys, bro. I'm the fucking master at that. Or I'm not, I'm just one of my favorite moves. One of the techniques that I like going for the most. Getting that arm, scooping the leg, kind of, getting those hips out, that Fedor armbar, right? That he kind of made popular, in the Pride days. But man, I just don't think that it's gonna work against Pat. And now, given, like we said, the motherfucker did get his arm broken the one time that he got submitted. But Martian, at least we know if he gets his arm caught,
He ain't
what do we
tapping.
know, Martian? He's willing to let that shit break, which is pretty cool. That's pretty cool because if I'm telling you right now, I'd tap. But dude, when he got his arm broken, he kind of just looked at it. He's like, "Oh shit!" He's like, "God damn it!" Like this thing is definitely broken. But he's tough. But so this is a pick that I also have. I have passed Sabatini this week. I would say honestly though, I would rank it lower on my confidence scale, and the reason being for that is honestly Diego Lopes on the feet, because Diego Lopes on the feet, in comparison to the type of strikes that Pat throws, he's just way more dangerous. He throws with much more intent, way more intent. And Pat sometimes when he's throwing these shots out, it looks like he's not very comfortable with the range. He doesn't really find like where the spot is for him to consistently land. Now he can land good strikes, but I would put him like he has like a little bit of that Sean Brady to him. But I would even say Sean Brady's a little bit better than him, with kind of like finding like or with the style of striking that he employs. But Pat, he's kind of like he's got like those little short T-Rex arms a little bit. He's kind of got that like wide back, and he really wants to just get his arms around you, squeeze you, put you down, in guard, and kind of work from there. And on top, dude, he's smothering. Like from the guys that I've trained with, like and that have trained with Pat as well, they're like, man, this guy's like one of the best guys I've ever trained with. And the biggest thing in terms of the ground game that I like about Pat is that he forces half guard. He forces chest to chest. He does not really stay in the guard all that much, right? You saw that in the Lucas Almeida fight, and it's a big staple with the Renzo Gracie Philly fighters, right? You see that they're always looking to get that half guard. They're looking to get to ride those legs, to kind of use like a mix of what like Khabib and those guys do with kind of like tying up those legs and then working their way into top mount and getting that handcuff and riding you from there, which I think should be effective against a guy like Lopes who's a guard player. So what I think we'll see take place in this fight is Pat looking to avoid his guard, looking to go to that half guard, and we're going to probably see Diego Lopes looking to go for leg locks and looking to kind of look for like scooping the leg, in half guard, getting his knee in the way, kind of like spinning under him and trying to do that a lot. And I think that should it goes well into Pat's game. So I feel like his grappling game, the strengths of it are the weaknesses of Diego Lopes. So that's why I like him here as a small favorite. -120 seems pretty good to me. But I also feel that Pat later on finish. So I'm going to maybe be a little bit lighter on the money line and then take some round 2, round 3 props for Pat, because I've seen Diego Lopes start to wilt later on in fights. And I do think that this fight, either way, it's a main card opener, they're gonna get active, is what we say in New York. They're gonna get
Mm.
active in this fight. So, the under might be a good shot here at minus 150. But I'm thinking that we possibly see a finish here in this fight. So, but the side for me is past Sabatini as well.
Good points about the closed guard, and I think Pat threw way more ground and pound in that last fight than he traditionally did. So
Yes.
that'll
Hmm.
be a good sign. Moving on to the last fight in the prelim, Steve Erceg taking on Alessandro Costa. Odds for this one have Erceg minus 195 or 190, Costa plus 160. It was supposed to be Erceg versus Matt Schnell. Costa filling in here on short notice. Your turn to start this one off in the flyweight division.
Yeah, so we got a steam move here. I believe this was closer to like minus 140, minus 130 Erkeg. I can confirm that there has been tout action on the Steve Erkeg fight. So that's why we were getting a minus 190, line here. I like Erkeg. I like that fight against Dvorak. It was an interesting fight to me. It showed a lot of skills that Erkeg brought. It just showed me that he was a very intelligent fighter, because a lot of there's a lot of positions that maybe he got behind on or that Dvorak had success with, but then Erkeg would immediately look for the positions that he clearly trained, whether it be that guillotine that he would snatch up very often, some of the strike selections that he would go for, some of the ways that when he was transitioning to top positioning and like the control points that he was looking for. So he looked like a very well schooled, very experienced fighter, and a guy that was coming in there with a plan of attack, which was impressive to me, as well as his cardio, given that it was on short notice. Now Costa, on the other hand, has been a guy who, for me, has I think been overrated. Like from the what people have told me for his contender fight, I didn't really know too much about him. People were telling me he was a lock, he was this and that. I think he was like minus 300. Was a pretty close fight. I thought that they could have potentially given that fight to the other guy who I didn't think was very good. He had a good fight, first round against what's his guy, Albazi, and who is good. But I feel that in this fight, I feel that he is dangerous. So I don't want to be on the favorite here. So it'd be for me dog or pass at this position. But I think this would be a good live bet fight, because we saw Costa use those calf kicks, which I always like to see, especially at this 125 weight class. Them boys do not have thick legs, so kick the fuck out of that calf. And on the ground, he's a jiu-jitsu black belt as well. So I can see this fight being close overall. But I do think that both have finishing threat. Erkeg could be a little hittable on the feet, I feel, especially with, I think we're gonna see a little bit of a speed difference here early on. So I think, I was thinking about maybe potentially an over, because sometimes I think maybe, when you have two guys that are dangerous, they cancel each other out. But I'm gonna avoid this fight overall. I think it's gonna be an entertaining one. I feel it could be a good live bet one where, maybe Costa gets out to early lead, similar to the Albazi fight, and then ends up maybe getting finished later on, because Erkeg is very opportunistic. But it would have to be dog or pass. I can't lay 90 cents or anything like that. It's definitely the worst of the number. And I do think this is a fight that potentially tightens a little bit more. I think we'll get a little bit of action on Costa, and I wouldn't be surprised if this closed like more like minus 170 Erkeg. So that's all for me.
Yeah, not a fight with super high confidence, no bets for me, but I do think Erceg will win. And just rewatching Costa's fights, I mean, he's just very kind of rudimentary. He has that tight shell. He throws calf kicks. He boxes, but he doesn't do a whole lot else. And I think that if the fight stays standing, I could see Costa having success with those hands and the leg kicks, but I could see Urkeg having some success because he's just real long and opportunistic. And we saw him getting outstruck by Dvorak early on, and then he just kept working his way into the fight, and he eventually dropped him there with a punch and eventually, turn that entire fight around. So, 4-inch uh, height advantage for Urkeg here. I think that could lead to him having some success standing. And if anybody is having success grappling, I just think it's really on the Urkeg side. I saw really bad stuff from the ground game of Albazi. He when he got dropped in round two there, he just went full guard and just was completely locking his legs, shoulders flat on the mat for over 4 minutes there. Got taken down again in the third round. I think he got taken down at the end of the first too. So I just think his takedown defense did not look good. The Luna fight on the Contender Series wasn't good. And, Urkeg full camp. I actually think this is probably an easier fight than Matt Schnell. So I think this line where it's at now, Erceg 65% seems pretty accurate to me. But I agree with what you're saying about live bet. Maybe Costa starts fast and then he fades because he's the one on short notice. So look out for that. Another fight thrown together here on short notice. Mateusz Rebecki taking on Roosevelt Roberts was supposed to be Rebecki versus Nurullo Aliyev. Instead, poor Roosevelt Roberts is getting thrown to the woods. Wait, wolves. The line for this just dropped. It's Rebecki minus 600, and that's fucking accurate. I can tell you that Roosevelt Roberts is not stopping Rebecki, bro. There's no way. Like, this is not to be to go, full retard here, but this is kind of a lock that Rebecki's gonna win the fight, man. There's no way this surfboard looking motherfucker Roosevelt Roberts with his noodly ass legs is stopping a wrecking ball like Rebecki. So maybe look to get another late Rebecki prop, like round 2, round 3 of some sort.
Yeah, I think this fight got put together like yesterday or today or something like that. I don't really look into it too much. Roosevelt lost. Did he? Who did he lose? Did he lose to
Austin
Hollowball
Hubbard.
or Hubbard? He lost to Hubbard on the show. Okay, was that a 2-round fight or a 3-round fight?
I
Do you
think it
know?
went all 3.
It went on 3. Okay, yeah. So I mean, overall, obviously, Rebecki's last fight was awesome. Really, really good fight against Loic, where he just tore apart those legs. I think he like tore this guy's knee ligaments or something. It was bad. But Southpaw machine. He's like Johnny Hendricks, dude. If Johnny Hendricks knew how to throw kicks and was
Fingers
still on
American.
steroids and was Polish, dude. So the dude is good, dude. I want to see him. I thought the fight against Aliyev was a little bit weird, but I will want to see this guy maybe get a little step up after this overall. But maybe Roosevelt could do some surviving here, honestly. Maybe, with those, I mean, those skinny legs are gonna get torn apart though. So this is a good bathroom break fight. Should be a little bit of violence here, but don't put it past Roosevelt to, this guy, he's got that little quick hand sometimes. There's been crazier things than Rebecki getting clipped with a shot. So
I think it would be more like
I
a
would
guillotine. If he somehow loses, he could like stick his neck out and get choked.
Yeah, I could see that too. Cause I mean, this guy, he did go let's put into, he did go 3 rounds with, who's the guy that Chase Hooper just killed, Nick
Fior.
Fiore, was his name?
Yeah.
Fior. He went 3 rounds with him, so he will, so if he goes to the takedown, and they grapple, it's not necessarily that he's gonna get a finish, So, if there's a interesting over 1.5, maybe I could be interested in that. But probably a pass fight for me overall.
Yeah,
But
I
let
imagine.
always remember he did go 3 rounds to Nick Fiore.
That
So
is true. Women's fight next. Is it the only no, second women's fight on the card? Flyweight division, strawweight division. Tabitha Ricci taking on Rebecki-Godinez. Odds for this one have Lupi minus 175, Ricci plus 150 here.
let's
And your turn to start
go.
this one off.
Let's go. This is a Martian. What would you call your Discord? Do you have a name for it overall? You never named it, right?
What
Well,
Discord?
the Discord that we have.
That doesn't exist.
All right, whatever. This is a Smash Collab Syndicate play overall that we got loaded up on Rebecki-Godinez. Okay, so obviously the line's been moving up. It moved down earlier in the week, right? This is kind of shades of the Casey fight from last week. Lupi went down all the way to like minus 130, minus 125. We got in there on that price, but I did earlier in the week or last week. I was like in Atlantic City. I put in some bets on her at minus 170. So I
Mhm.
think even at this price, it's still a good price, I think, honestly. Because breaking down this fight, Ricci overall, she's got the jiu-jitsu pedigree, but overall, I just don't think this. I've been tried and true on this, and she's been winning these fights, but I do not think her style is one that is really like one that should win against competent MMA fighters. And I feel that Rebecki-Godinez is a competent MMA fighter. She's got quick hands. She's developing a little bit more power from what I'm seeing, right? She's training with Alexa Grasso. She went back to her roots. She's out of that shithole country, Canada. Shout out Chad. out of the Canada, and she's training down in Mexico with the champion. They're training at Elevation. She's training with Diego Lopes. They got good energy around them. I gotta admit, there's money coming in there as well. Let me tell you, there's money being funneled in that direction. Okay, guys, and so they have good accommodations overall. And she's active. Okay, so I sometimes don't like seeing that. But given that this is the women female division, it's not like they're getting a lot of CTE in these fights and stuff like that. Unless maybe in like 50 years we'll find out that she's got bad CTE, but whatever. Anyway, I think this is like her third or fourth fight of this year, her second fight in like 3 months. So I'm hoping that activity doesn't catch up to her negatively. But I just feel that overall, she's been getting more comfortable with her game. She gets more authoritative takedowns than Ricci, right? You see Ricci, she'll get these little single legs, she'll grab these legs, and then she'll go for like these little stupid trips. That, yeah, they'll work on sometimes when these girls don't know how to wrestle at all. But Lupi, both of her sisters, dude, are on the freestyle Canadian national team. She knows how to wrestle. If they're in these turtle positions, right? We saw Robertson get a takedown on Ricci, but she couldn't keep her down because she could. What's Godinez gonna do? She's good at circling around, holding that front headlock, pulling you around, circling to your back, getting a cradle, whatever it is. These wrestling positions that a lot of times we don't see in the female divisions, Lupi actually knows how to do that. Now, Ricci, on the other hand, she hasn't really, other than the Jessica Panay fight, you haven't really seen her be able to implement jujitsu. And I don't think that this is going to be a fight where she's going to be able to hold down Rebecki-Roberts. So I just think that on the feet, Lupi's going to be landing harder punches, is going to be more direct with her strikes. And then if they do want to grapple, Lupi actually lands the more authoritative takedowns to actually put her in good positions to follow up, hold her opponent down, land ground and pound, and do the whole nine. So I don't put credit on the Jillian Robertson win. Jillian Robertson at 115 is weak as fuck. And I just like Rebecki-Roberts a lot in this fight. So I think that she should get. I don't think it's gonna be easy, right? It's minus 400 to go to the decision. So I think it's gonna go to the decision. But I just feel that it's gonna be very clear who's landing the harder punches, who's controlling the fight, who's dictating the pace, and that shall be Rebecki-Roberts.
Yeah, can't say it too much better myself. I'm not going to waste too much more time because that was a very succinct breakdown. I'm in agreement also on Lupi minus 130. But I've also bet against Ricci, I think like 3 times in a row. This is the fourth time in a row. I actually bet I've donated a lot against Ricci. And I've been wrong against her. And actually on the fourth fight, I bet on actually no, I've lost on every single one of her fights in the UFC so far, and I'm on Loopy here. So, y'all might think that that's a bad sign, but I think I'm due. I'm due for a profit on a Ricci fight, and this is going to be that one. So I got Loopy money line here. Just echoing all the points that Ozzy made, and that's going to take us to the lightweight division next. Nazim Sadykhov taking on Slava Borshev. Odds for this one: Nazim minus 140, Slava plus 120. Good matchup here. I think this is a really well put together fight. Both guys around the same tiers. And, I've underrated Slava a little bit. I think the guy striking is, getting much better and dangerous. But it's just this guy's takedown defense and his defensive grappling once he's taken down is atrocious, man. I mean, he really can't defend takedowns well. And then once he gets put on bottom, he has really no ability to defend or to stand up without putting himself in very, very severe danger. I mean, Mike Davis, not really known for being a wrestler, was just getting easy takedowns, 9 takedowns in that fight, mounted him over and over again. Casey took him down, kept him down with ease, and it seems like the wrestling really tires Slava out. Like once he's put on bottom, it really depletes him. He doesn't strike me as the kind of we see some strikers like Alex Pereira, we were talking about in the Yan fight. He gets taken down and he like saves energy. He gets up and then he goes sicko mode on you and he wins the round back. Slava is not that. Like his tank depletes once he gets taken down. Now we're talking about all this, but Nazim Sadykhov is not exactly a reliable wrestler. We have seen him get on top. We have seen him show good signs of grappling. And I do think he is the much better overall MMA fighter. But I would have liked to see like him going to that offensive wrestling in his recent fights, which he hasn't done. But that's why we're kind of getting a generous price on him here because we're getting minus 140. I think that indicates that Sadykhov has a chance to win the fight on the feet. He has a window, but I would cap him as the underdog if it stays standing. But he has massive, massive hindsight favorite potential if he hits these takedowns here. So let's hope Nazim and his coaches have game plan. I mean, I really think it's so blatantly obvious that Borschev is a horrible wrestler. It would be asinine if Nazim did not attempt any takedowns. And then, like I was saying, like if Slava's the favorite on the feet, if he's winning the striking, I don't think that he's going to knock out Nazim. We saw Nazim go to war with Evan Elder and ate a lot of shots there, and he kept coming on. So I think that if he's getting outstruck by Borschev, he's going to be like, okay, this guy's outstriking me. It's time to wrestle. It's time to switch things up, in which he should hit easy takedowns and maintain top position easily. So I got Nazim here. One of my lesser confident ones, I got him just for 1 unit at -135. But I'll pass it over to you.
Cool fight here. You got Nazim, who another Saralango guy, Southpaw. And you mentioned that Evan Elder fight. Very underrated fight. Evan Elder is a very good prospect at 155. You saw in his last fight, he looked pretty good, I thought. But a guy that's very well rounded. And those boys had a scrap. But in that fight, I felt that Nazim was potentially going to be taken over in that third round. But overall, like you said, pretty, has skills in a lot of different areas. I think that the southpaw, the fact that he's a southpaw should be to his benefit here. The Slava's best attack is his left hook. That's what he knocked out Chris Duncan with. That's what he set up the overhand right with when he knocked out what's his name, Mahashate. He's always trying to throw that left hook to the body as well. And I think the southpaw nature should mute that a little bit. But I feel that, like you said, there's just a lot of easy things to see on tape for a guy like Nazim to take advantage of versus a guy like Slav. I think he's going to be the stronger fighter in there. I think he's going to be the more varied fighter here as well with the left body kick and the kicks that we're going to see there. And I'm actually liking him. So I did put a play on him on the money line, but I did also take a little stab at him by decision. I found a plus 330 or plus 325 number on him. And I think that is honestly potentially a pretty good number because one, like you're saying, this could be a striking fight where maybe it's 1-1 going into a third round, right? You got a plus 320 ticket in your pocket, pretty good. As well as, if he's able to bank some rounds with the grappling, whether that be early or late, I do think that, Slava showed that he is, he's not a quitter. So I'm gonna give him credit. He's not a quitter. He could have found a way out a few times against Mike Davis. Mike Davis really busted him up. I think from the mount a few times when he did get him down. But the main thing is, one, the guy can't really get up to his feet, and then two, like he'll give up these dominant positions. So maybe it'll be a little sweaty with the decision line. So that's why it's only a small play to be on top of the by decision line. But I just think that Nazim is just a cerebral fighter. He's going to be able to find, the path to victory, and it might not be early. So that's why I think this fight potentially could go a little bit later. So this is another fight where I think you could look for like those lines where you have they give you like round 3 or by decision kind of line. That could potentially be a way to play Nazim and both the angles that I'm liking here. But I definitely like him in this fight. So I think that he's going to pick up a win here overall. And I just think that he's able to combat a lot of the strengths that Slava has while exploiting his weaknesses, at the same time. So that's what I look for when I'm betting on MMA. That's what you should look for as well, even if you don't agree with me on this particular pick.
Yeah, and training with Matt Frevola too. The vibes are definitely good over there in Strong Island.
They got a good 155, 145 pool over there in Long Island. Let me tell you.
Aljo's out there helping them. Ally Quinta, his wisdom is helping them.
Very strong team unity they got going on.
Let's hope. And if anybody is in the inner circle, like let's get Nazim the game plan, the wrestling game plan. We need to make sure that he's wrestling out here.
Boy, you from Azerbaijan. Come on. You gotta go for takedowns. Put him on his back.
A good USSR fight right here. And we're moving on to another fight in the lightweight division. We got another one of New York's own, Jared Gordon, taking on Mark Madsen. Odds for this one have Gordon -182, Madsen +157. I feel like Gordon's got to be like one of the podcast favorite fighters. I
I
mean,
love him.
just a stud fighter. Even though he did beat up my man Bill Algeo back in the day, I was there in person, and I was like, "Wait, how is Bill losing? Like, how is he getting outboxed right now? I didn't know that was possible."
It
But
was a great fight.
and let's see, it's your turn to start this one off. Let's get right back
Sure.
to it.
Yeah, let's go. Yeah, so we got both these guys. They share the accolades of being choked out by Grant Dawson. One guy did it a little bit more embarrassing than the other. I'll let you guys, watch the tape and figure out which one that was. But I like Jared Gordon in this fight. The Queen of New York, or the Queen of Queens, or the King of Queens, excuse me, the King of Queens. He's gonna be holding it down while I'm away. But yeah, I really like him in this fight. The thing with Mark Madsen is, right, he'll tell you, right, what his accolades are, right? Three-time whatever European champion, four-time Olympian, whatever. Nobody cares, bro. You're fighting MMA. This shit was like 12 years ago, the shit that you're talking about, okay? And as an MMA fighter, the guy's just no good. He's just no good. He's not good at anything in particular. Unless like you're gonna let him lock his hands, around you and freaking do a gut wrench or whatever the fuck they do in that bullshit as a style of wrestling. It ain't gonna work against Jared Gordon, because Jared Gordon is gonna be landing that left hook on him all day long. I think people were, talking down on that performance that he had against Bobby. Well, who was he supposed to fight that they pulled him from the fight right after he got knocked out by Bobby Green? Was he
Good, good.
who
Let's
the
see.
can you
Jim
look that
Miller.
up? Jim Miller. Okay, yeah. So he's about to fight Jim Miller, and everybody got on hot on the thing, like, oh, he had the concussion and stuff like that. So I don't really remember where that line was, more or less, but I know that some people like the Jim Miller side because they were like, hey, Jim Miller's gonna clip him early. But then other people were like, yo, Jared's gonna freaking cook him. Jim Miller's got one round of gas. And this is a fight where Mark Madsen's just not a fighter, dude. He's going from Bobby Green, who's like the most natural fighter there could ever be, right? The guy's throwing these shots from all these different angles. He's in your face. He's throwing these stupid ass kicks to your knees that obviously work. But he's making you uncomfortable. Mark Madsen doesn't do anything to make you uncomfortable on the feet. So he almost lost a striking fight to Clay Guida, for God's sake. Okay, so I just feel that Jared, he's like 11-1 in decisions, right? Or I don't think he might have not, right? I think he's lost like one decision, but he's great in
A
decisions.
bullshit
He
decision. Patty.
bullshit as a yeah, the Patty Pittman. Yeah, thank you for reminding me. I forgot about that.
Oof.
But yeah, but 11-1 in decisions, dude. Builds as the fight goes on, finds power strikes as the fight goes on, and I feel like he's coming in here to make a statement, dude. This is a guy where they're like, Jared, knock this guy the fuck out. Like, push his cardio, push the pace on him. He might even have grappling success on Mark Madsen. But the main thing is, Mark Madsen, even if he gets takedowns, dude, he's not going to be able to hold Jared Gordon down. He is just not going to happen. So I just feel that Jared Gordon, with his fundamental boxing, with his ways to always find his way to neutral positions, is going to frustrate Mark Madsen, is going to start clipping him as the fight goes on, wearing him down, and eventually, I think maybe potentially finishing him later on in the fight. But we're not going to go with that. We're going to go with the money line here. I went in at -170, -175. I think up to -200, we're good here. If you're unsure about that, maybe you take a little bit of the by decision line at +125 to break it up a little bit. But I love him in this spot.
Yeah, I put Gordon at a comfy -235 here, 70%. And I just think that the Mark winning the fight he would need to really leverage his striking well, which he doesn't typically do, and then parlay that into takedowns. And just Gordon is tough to take down, man. I mean, Madsen's 39 years old. He's been competing for a really long time. Never really thought he was that great of an MMA fighter. And I just think that rewatching some of the Pichel fight, I mean, it just seems like that fight is not really relevant because I just don't see Gordon getting taken down easily like Pichel did. And even then, that fight, Pichel worked his way back in. He had some moments. He won the second round. He got taken down in the center of the cage in round 3, and that was it. but I just really don't see that working against Gordon here. I think Gordon's the better striker by a good margin. Gordon's got great cardio. He's got above average takedown defense, and he lands a ton of strikes. I mean, Gordon, he lands strikes in the feet, and then when he gets on top, if he does, he really makes it count, lands a lot of ground and pound, has racked up a lot of strikes on some guys over the full 15 minutes. And I just think that this fight really favors him. He's fighting in New York. Uh, I don't think he's got a win since that, oh, no, the Leo Santos fight. I was gonna say he's still got that bad taste from the Paddy fight. Oh, no, no, he hasn't won a fight since the Paddy Pimblett fight. So, frustrating year for Jared, getting that knocked out with the headbutt, losing that awful robbery to Paddy. I think he's gonna get back on track here with a statement win, like Ozzy said, in his home, um, state. Sold, I think he sold, he bought, like, $19,000 worth of tickets or some shit for his friends and family, so he better win. That might be his whole fucking purse with the way the UFC plays.
Mark Madsen also, I think, he did his whole training camp in fucking Denmark.
Really? Well,
Yeah, dude.
fuck, isn't Nicholas Dalby from Denmark though? Oh man, that's
Yeah, it's
bad
fine,
vibes.
dude.
But Dalby,
There couldn't be two more different fighters, dude,
that's
than Mark
true.
Madsen and freaking Nicholas
Well, the way they
Dalby.
fight is honestly not that different, but but Dalby is just clearly built different. They're both
Dude, all
39.
all you see, all you see on clips on Mark Madsen Instagram, dude, is him deadlifting, cycling, rowing. Dude, this guy's not a fighter.
Sniffing crotches too.
This,
Um,
this guy's not a fighter.
He's actually not a cross sniffer because he's Greco-Roman, but you get the point. Next fight on the card is my favorite fight on the card. This is what MMA is all about right here. These type of fights are my favorite ones. You got the 35th versus 34th ranked bantamweight, Kyung-Ho Kang taking on John Castaneda. Odds for this one, Castaneda minus 143, Kang plus 123. And the fight I'm talking about is just two. They're not ranked. They might not be known to the entire audience, but these guys are studs. They're good fighters. I think Castaneda has had a really promising short run in the UFC so far. Kang has had a really underrated long reign in the UFC. Been in the UFC for almost 10 years now, I think. I think maybe 9 years. No, actually 10 years.
And he took 2 years off from the military shit.
Of course, 8-3 in that time, and coming off of two good wins. I bet on him in both fights as the dog. Really disciplined striking performance versus Batgarel. Great, just brawl versus Quinones. Got hurt with the strike there, bit down in the mouthpiece. Ended up rocking Quinones and choking him out. And the guy is just a skilled fighter in all areas. I mean, he's good on top. He's really good at um, kind of he lays in praise at times, but he can take backs and submit you. And then his striking is really solid. A lot of calf kicks, good jab. But in this fight, I see Castaneda's southpaw stance giving him trouble because Kang has not fought many southpaws. The guy that he has, Guido Canetti, Teruto Ishihara, not the best fighters. He did finish them both in the first round, but I just think that this is probably the best striker that Kang has fought in a really long time. And I mean, if you look at just his past 10, 15 opponents, he hasn't fought the highest level competition in the UFC. And I think this is just a very unique look, a crafty southpaw striker, a guy who's good at all ranges of striking and can possibly even mix it up with some ground game as well. I don't think this one will go. I don't think Castaneda will willingly take it to the ground. If anyone's trying to wrestle here, I think it'll be Kang. But I see Kang wanting to keep the fight at that jabbing range, that long distance where he can land his kicks, land his jab, keep things long and at the end of his punches. While Castaneda is going to be, slipping off the center line, avoiding that jab and trying to get inside the pocket with that southpaw striking of his. Really like his left hand and he mixes in some head kicks really well as well. And I just think the pace of Castaneda will eventually take over here. Kang, um, I think he doesn't really go the hard 15 minutes the entire time. I think Castaneda has really good cardio, and that will come into play here. I could see it being 1-1 heading into the third round, but I trust Castaneda to pull away more, and I trust him as the slight favorite here. I cap him, closer to minus 180. I would say minus 200 seems about right for Castaneda, but really good, fun fight. I don't like betting against my man Kang. He's been a good money train recently, but I got to go against them here and go with Sexy Mexi in this one.
Interesting fight here, at the 135 weight class. Overall, Castaneda, I've been a fan of his, and I think that he brings a lot of good skills. He, hunts a lot of the, good strikes. He has great foot positioning to find these big strikes of his. But I do think that Kang early on in the first round, or in the first half of the fight, like you said, with that big, that long, poking jab of his, I think he's gonna have a was it like a 4-inch reach advantage somewhere, in that area. He's going to be looking to poke out that jab a lot, maybe work in that inside leg kick, and then follow up with his right hand. So I think early on it's going to be a very even fight. So this is a fight that I would look to live bet instead of laying the juice personally on Castaneda. But I do like Castaneda by decision here. If you could get a plus 140, plus 150, or similar to I think one of the other fights earlier on that I said, a round 3 or a decision for Castaneda at plus money, I think is solid. I don't think that he really is going to, if I've seen a lot of his previous fights, the power he really doesn't look to put huge punches on you early. He looks to kind of rev that engine, as the fight goes on, and find the bigger strikes, as they go later. I remember I personally had him by decision. I had money line as well, but him by decision against Miles Johns. And right there is one time that I wish that I had that round 3 or by decision line. So he really does put it on people later on in the fight. He gets good reads, which is often what happens with southpaw strikers. And Kang is, like you said, 36, 37, a bit older. So I think if he is having success early on, whether that be grappling with maybe getting some clinch takedowns and stuff like that, I do think he could slow down. And I do think that Castaneda will, not might, will make him pay if he slows down. So I like, getting a little splash of that if we could find a good line on that. But I won't be laying the juice, only a Castaneda by decision ticket or a round 3 slash by decision ticket. But I would pick Castaneda to get the win as well.
Your round 3 for Cast is plus 1,000. So, and that's going to move us along to the flyweight division. Joshua Van, Kevin Boras, 2 young guys here. We got Van minus 225, Borjas plus 190. Your turn to start this one off.
Cool fight here. Josh Van came through for me as the underdog in his last fight against Zumagulov. I think he was like plus like 240, 230, somewhere in that area. And Kevin, cash as a dog as on the contender series. So, coming out of Peru, scrappy guy, 25-year-old. I think he'll be 26 later on, or like a week or two later. I do think that he trained. I don't know where I don't know if he trains in Peru specifically, but he's a scrappy guy. He got put in a few bad positions, in that fight against Victor, but was able to fight out of it. And then when he did get on the feet, he was like a freaking conveyor belt dude with these punches, right? Like we were talking about. He's like jab cross. Like he just was putting it on. I thought he was gonna finish Victor, but Victor was able to tough it out. I think his nose is bloody, pretty much. But it was a good performance by him. Vando, like him as a prospect here. The guy's very, very young, uses his strike so very, very well, I feel, builds into the fight, and has an underrated grappling game, in my opinion. So I do think that this fight could be close early on, just with the nature of the 125 weight class. But I feel like with these 125 guys, like they finish like in a flash, like in an instant. And you're like, damn, like I thought I had a good decision ticket or this or that, and then poof, it's gone. So they have him to finish, like they're favoring a finish later on potentially from Van. There's lining this at like a 1.5 and stuff like that. So I wouldn't really invest in anything on the total side of things. If the line got a little bit closer, I think I would be a little bit interested in Van. But I do think that potentially him by submission. I would try to do one of the round props, like pair the round and submission. Like you could get round 2 submission for Van, 18-1. Round 3 submission, 25-1. Up, or somewhere similar. Because I just feel that Kevin he's just a tough South American dude. It's gonna be hard to put him out with strikes. In my opinion. And I do think that at some point Van will look for a takedown here. So I do like that little angle of a submission. So I'm gonna look for the best price on that and hunt that. But yeah, taking that plus money there with 2 young fighters, I think is the way to go.
I'm actually kind of leaning Van Juice at this price. I just see him as a lot more polished. I know the guy's, incredibly young. I think he's what, 22, and he went pro just like 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago, and he's just racking up fights. But I'm really impressed what I see from this guy. He's got a really good eye for striking exchanges, and have seen him mix up the grappling well. I'm wondering where this guy like trains, because I got to look into that, because that gym, whatever it is one to look out for, because if a guy this young, 22 years old, can have such a good eye for striking exchanges and can be experienced in grappling and defensive grappling and have good cardio and be this active, that's a gym to look out for. 4 ounce fight
You're
club.
gonna you're gonna be on the first flight over, right? You're gonna sign up.
Fuck no,
You
I'm
got
not built
potential,
like
right?
this. Like Van being like 22 and me being 25. I'm like, damn, bro. Like, what am I doing? Um,
You still got time, Martian. You know, we get you
no,
in there, bro.
no. Um, But Borjas, I think, it's kind of interesting this guy got in the UFC. I mean, his Contender Series fight wasn't very good. It wasn't very exciting. He lost a good portion of the fight, was taken down a lot, and he kind of just won basically because Diaz had no ability to push a pace. I mean, this guy was gassed after round 1, and every time they would get on the feet, Diaz just had nothing. I mean, Borjas was just spamming jab, cross, left hook to the body, to the head, and even though he got taken down and controlled for what, 7, 8 minutes of this fight, he was able to win the fight pretty clearly the second and third round, just because Diaz just did no damage in those later rounds. So I don't really think that Borjas is that good, and I think he's kind of coming off a kind of a mediocre performance. And if you're looking for some of his fights before the UFC, hard to track them down. We got 2 fights out there. One is a fight that ends in cut in 2 minutes. The other one is a guy named Mendez, where he drops him, then Mendez drops him and chokes him out. So we saw him get rocked in that fight. So not impressed with anything I've seen from Boras. Kind of basic, and just think when the fight's on the feet, Van is going to be a little sharper. And if Van decides to take the fight to the floor, I think he should have an easy path to get the takedowns and to control him. And good angle with that late sub 2-3 as well. So look out for those lines when they're more readily available. But I think Van is pretty safe here, honestly. And that's going to take us to the last fight on the card. Well, it's the first fight on the card for everybody else, which is Dennis Buzukja taking on Jamal Emmers. Emmers is the favorite here, minus 255, Buzukja plus 215. So UFC giving Buzukja another chance. He came in on short notice versus Woodson, cut a ton of weight in that one in a really short amount of time. And I don't think he looked very good in that fight. I don't think he really showed much promising. And I just never thought he was that good to begin with. And I really don't have much thoughts in this fight, except for I think Jamal Emmers will win. I'm pretty confident that Emmers is the better fighter. I think the price minus 255, minus 300 for Emmers seems about right. And no real interest in Buzukja. And I would be pretty surprised
How's
to
he gonna
see.
win?
I would
How is he gonna win?
Jamal Emmers is gonna win by decision for sure.
Okay.
For sure. He's just a decision
Striking
type
or
of guy.
grappling? How is he gonna do it?
A mix of both, but I think Emmers will be the better fighter in both areas, honestly. I think, I could see Bazooka attempting takedowns and failing and then ending up on top, but I think Emmers is pretty safe here.
All right, I got Dennis Buzukja here. Shocker alert. And I just like at this big plus number, right? Let me break it down why I like Dennis. Okay, first, you know, Dennis has been to 9 decisions in his career, right? So I like when the guy's, you know, young in his UFC career and they've got rounds under their belt. All right. Next, he's got more power on the feet than Jamal Emmers. Jamal Emmers, he can't bust a grip. Although he almost busted past Sabatini's chin, he didn't finish the job. And you know, I just think that when he's throwing these strikes, they're like flailing strikes. I don't really think he's that accurate or you know, I just don't. Like he couldn't even hurt Vince Cachero. He's just a dumb fighter. I don't think that he strings together, you know, strikes well. I don't think he builds into fights very well. And I just don't really think that he's gonna have that much grappling success here against Dennis. You know, underrated, you know, this guy is 34 years old overall. And, you know, with Dennis, I did think that Dennis was gonna fold, honestly, in that Woodson fight. And he, you know, he was a little bit tired there, but he was getting hit in the body, he missed weight, all those kinds of things. He never gave up in that fight. I think he's gonna be much more prepared in this fight. I think that he's not at that crazy like size disparity here against a guy like that he wasn't like against a guy like Sean Woodson. And this should be I think this is definitely gonna be a close fight. Like I'm not even like there's not even a shadow of a doubt in my mind that this fight will be close. And if I can get a plus 215, 220, I bet it at 230. But on Dennis Buzukja, I got to take it all day because Emmers, he's bad at finishing fights. He's bad at kind of like closing out rounds. He's bad at putting a stamp on stuff. And Dennis is tough as fuck. He's got good cardio. He's got power in his hands, and he's more well-rounded than people give him credit for. So I think let's start off the night with a New York home fighter, dog shot winner. So, maybe a Dennis by decision line here as well, just because Emmers, I think he is a weasel enough that he's not going to really probably get finished. But they got Dennis or Emmers by decision at minus 120. Imagine laying chalk on
That's
fucking
horrible.
Jamal Emmers to win a 15-minute decision. Are you drunk? Like that's insane. Like look at that. They have Emmers minus 120 to win by decision. They got Dennis Buzukja plus 3.5, only even money. Lines seem weird to me. Let's go. Dennis, no scorecards, plus 200.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you bet that?
I don't totally disagree with anything you said there.
No scorecards plus 200?
He's not finishing
for
Emmers.
Dennis?
He's not
and
finishing
is Emmers gonna finish him? If I give you a free ticket,
no.
If I told you I'll give you $2, or you would lose. Like if I gave you that ticket, you wouldn't be happy with it. If I gave you that for Christmas, you'd be like, "Damn, that's solid." That's solid.
I don't know.
I mean, obviously, it would already be cash.
It's gonna be an underwhelming Jamal decision, just like it typically.
Jamal round 1, 5-1. That's insane, dude. He is not finished. I'm telling you, Dennis is gonna make this fight close. It's gonna happen.
I don't totally disagree. So, I mean, I do disagree, but not totally disagree.
Dude, Emmers is an idiot, dude. He is a moron. You can now trust this man. You can't do it.
All right, it's time for the FMK. I have not. Let's see. I have 2. Let me look for the last one. Make sure you get your thoughts here together.
Sure.
Okay. I'm ready.
Give me some variety, Martian. Come on. This is a good. This is a good. I'm just saying. Overall, either way, go ahead.
Okay, no, you threw me off. You threw me off with that variety.
It's okay. It's okay. Don't do it.
I'm gonna give you some variety. All right, number 1, your boy Buzukja, 215. We'll talk about. Okay, then we'll give you another guy whose name is Matt Frevola, who also trains with him, who is plus 190. Okay. Last but not least, we'll throw in the Philadelphia's own Project Pat Sabatini at minus 121.
Oh man, damn! You're pulling on my heartstrings. Okay, so of these 3, all right, I'm gonna kill Project Pat. I'm sorry, Project Pat. You almost killed me one time, long time ago when I was only a blue belt. I tapped and you let go, so that's fortunate. But now it's my turn to kill him. So I don't want to lay chalk there. For the most part, in a fight where it might be high variance, might be a finish there. So Pat, gotta kill you. I'm sorry. I'm gonna fuck Dennis Buzukja. Dennis Buzukja, I want to get that started. Like we said, if we could get that out of the way, get that blast off early in the night, 6:10. Let's get an early round 1 KO. I'm fucking Dennis, okay? And then that leads me to marrying my boy Matt, the steamroller Frevola. He's probably gonna be the most popular man on the whole fight card. So who wouldn't want to marry that man and have everybody behind you like that? Okay. So now Martian, coming back at you. Okay, so I'm gonna give you maybe a prop as well. So first, I'm giving you Tom Aspinall in the co-main event. Okay. Second, I'm gonna give you Ricci-Godinez. All right, and then third, I'm gonna give you Kang-Casteneda. So I'm actually not gonna give you a prop. So let's give you those three sides that you like. A little bit of a difference in price, right? We got a little bit of juice Aspinall, a little bit more juice on Castaneda, and then Loopy at the top. So fuck, marry, kill, Martian. Go.
Okay. I'm gonna marry Ricci-Godinez. So I know there'll be some jealous ones out there.
Yes.
a fuck sexy Mexi. It's all in the name, and then Imma have to kill Aspinall just because it's heavyweight, is volatility. Um, but last week, I gave you 3 bets: Kaio sub, Nasty sub, Vieira sub. 0, 2, and 1. You gave me 3
Mm.
bets: Hill over 2.5 and Renat, and Nascimento money line. You gave 3 winners. I gave 0 winners. So keep that in mind. So, I'm marrying Loopy -175, fucking Castaneda -143, and killing Aspinall -118, and that's gonna do it. New York City, Madison Square Garden, big fight feel, big card feel. This is a really good one. Top to bottom, just good fights. I feel like they've structured the card well. I'm gonna be entertained the entire time. I have a feeling this is gonna be a good event. We got all slight juice for me: Castaneda, Gordon, Sadykhov-Godinez, Sabatini-Aspinall, Pereira. And Ozzy's on the same of a lot of them. I think he's on some dogs like Buzukja, Frevola as well, maybe Andrade. So good card, Looking forward to this one. We'll be back next week before Paul Craig versus Brendan Allen. Ozzy, have a good time in
Amazing.
Puerto Rico.
I'll try to
Um,
stay alive, boys.
do they like Dominicans down there? Is it
I
all
hope. I hope so. I think.
okay?
Yeah, I think we're good. We got good relations.
Good. Maybe like
I've done well with the Puerto Ricans.
add a little like gringo to your accent instead of like, the
See,
typical.
puppy.
Yeah, there you go. All right. I
Mm.
hope everyone enjoys the fights, wins some bets. We'll see you all next week. Peace out, everyone.